Hi guys, welcome to this first video. In this first video, we are going to cover the alphabet. Why is the alphabet important? For a variety of reasons. First of all, because the vast majority of pronunciation mistakes that we make when we are trying to learn the language as a beginner, they are not pronunciation mistakes, but reading mistakes. Let me explain that. Thing is that we pronounce you as an English speaker pronounce almost every single sound of Spanish. It's just that you relate that with another graphic, with another symbol. Let me explain that. Imagine someone from, let's say, London, okay, who is trying to say the word all, todo, okay, which is all. This person would say todo, right? Todo. Or if this person was American, he or she would say todo, todo, right? When actually the pronunciation of this is todo. So somebody may say, well, the problem is that in English you don't have that sound. You sure of that? Actually, in English, well, first of all, the O instead of the O, you have it because you say things like professional, football, organization, okay? It's an O, not an O. And second of all, the D. Of course, you can say todo, todo. In English, you have words like they, although, I don't know, them, okay? These are words that you pronounce in English all the time, and they're pronounced like the D in Spanish, with the tongue between the lips, the teeth, the. So that means that whenever an American person says todo, it's not because he or she doesn't know how to pronounce the. It's just because this person doesn't match the D letter with the sound. You know what I mean? Let me put down another example. Imagine that you want to say toro in Spanish, which means bull. Toro. Again, a lot of English people may say toro, with the R pronounced like that. Toro, ra. And actually, no, it's toro. And same thing would happen. Somebody would say, well, the thing is that in English we don't have that sound. Actually, you do, okay? Especially in American English. In American English, this word is not little, it's little. Well, my pronunciation is not perfect because I'm not an English native speaker, but yeah, it's not little. You say little, right? Little. Or the name Adam. Again, I'm not a native speaker, so I may be mispronouncing this, but you don't say Adam, right? You say Adam. Adam. That little D that is not a D is a D. It's like, or it's very similar to toro. So Adam, toro. Little, toro. You see that? That's the whole point. A lot of times I can be putting, I can be showing examples. I can show a lot more examples, but I think the idea is clear. The idea is that a lot of times the problem is not a pronunciation problem, an articulation problem, how to put the tongue, how to put the mouth, blah, blah, blah. No. The problem is a reading problem. You have to stop reading in English to begin reading in Spanish. So now the B doesn't necessarily have to be a B. So if you have the word, for example, abuela, which is granny, it's not abuela, it's abuela, right? Abuela. Like when you say wood, abuela. See that? Again, this would be another example of a word that you can pronounce. There's no problem for you to pronounce that. But since you are reading it in English, you are going to mispronounce it. So I don't know if I said this. I said this in the beginning, but in Spanish, we have to pronounce every single letter. We have to pronounce every single syllable. And we have to be like very aware of them, very mindful. Okay. Again, in English, you just read the word. In Spanish, you don't. In Spanish, you have to read letter by letter. So let's begin with the vowels, okay? The vowels are very simple. You have the A, E, I, O, U. Let's repeat that. A, E, I, O, U. Okay? Easy. A, E, I, O, U. Don't confuse these two, okay? These two are usually, a bit tricky because of English. But yeah, A, E, I, O, U. So now I'm gonna, I'm gonna underline a letter and do a vowel, and you're going to pronounce it. Okay? Let's do it. I, A, U, O, E. That's right. Okay? If you want, you can pause the video and like rewatch the last minute to really, memorize these 5 vowels, the sounds of these 5 vowels. So here's the thing. In Spanish, whenever we have a lot of vowels together, we don't pronounce anything weird. Like, for example, in French, whenever you have the O and the U, you have to pronounce U. Whenever you have the A and the I, you have to pronounce E. This doesn't happen in Spanish. In Spanish, we would just go letter by letter. So, for example, the word airport, aeropuerto, is aeropuerto. Aeropuerto. See that? I'm pronouncing every single syllable. Aeropuerto. Okay? Every single letter. Let's say, for example, the name Amelia. In English would be Emilia. Amelia. Amelia. See that? I'm reading every single vowel. The name Aurora in English would be Aurora, but in Spanish would be Aurora. See that? We pronounce every single syllable. It's interesting because I don't know why you guys have a lot of problems with this word, tenéis, which means you have, like you people have. For some reason, you always read tenéis. You know why? Because again, you're not reading letter by letter. You're just reading the word as a whole. And you read the E and the I together, and you're like, okay, it's going to be an E, so tenéis. But no, it's tenéis. Why? Because it's tenéis. Tenéis. Okay? And the thing is that you do have the A sound in English. Okay? The A sound would be this. In Spanish would be this. Okay? Tenéis. Again, you have to read in Spanish. Another word. Let's say, for example, aire. I don't know why. Okay. Aire. Air. Okay? Aire. Why? Because it's an A, I, and then E. Aire. Alright? Again, go vowel by vowel. Agua. Same thing. A-U-A. Agua. Acuático. Aquatic. A-U-A-I-O. Acuático. Alright? You have to go letter by letter. So that's the vowels. Let's go now to the consonant. Okay? We're just going to start with the hard ones, with the difficult ones. So let's start with the B. Okay? The B sounds like the B in English, like bat, but when it's between vowels, it's pronounced as a W, like in wood. Hey, not a U sound, a V sound, which is different. So, for example, if you have the word bolsa, sorry, this was for a dyslexic student, that's why it's separated, but, if you have bolsa, it's going to be bolsa. right? Bolsa, okay? Or if you have, I don't know, beso, beso means kiss. It's going to be beso as well. Or if you have, I don't know, I don't know, basta, basta is enough, okay? Basta. It would also be ba, right? But then whenever the B is between vowels, whether if it's in a word or in a sentence, like within the sentence, the B is going to be softer, okay? The muscles of the mouth are going to relax and they're going to pronounce a W sound. See the difference? When you say bat, and would. When you say would, your lips get together, but they don't touch themselves. When you say bat, there's, your lips, they close completely and they do like a little explosion. Ba, 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 ba. In wood, there's air going through. See that? I don't know if you can see my lips because the video is kind of dark, but it's w, 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 wood. Okay? So how would you say granny? It's not abuela. Okay? It's abuela. Abuela. It's a very soft B. Abuela. Okay? The same would happen with bolsa. If you have bolsa, it would be bolsa, which is bag. But if you say the bag, la bolsa, it's not la bolsa. It's la bolsa. Okay? La bolsa. And the same would go for the V. The V and the B are the same in Spanish. Okay? Let me put that here. B equals V. Okay? We don't distinguish between the B sound and the V sound. They're the same for us. So all this that I'm explaining also applies to the V. All right? So again, it's a B sound, but whenever it goes between vowels, it's a V sound. So for example, let's say the word lips. Labios. It's not labios, it's labios. 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 Okay? All right. Okay. So that's the B. All right? Let's move on to the D sound. And here something very similar happens. The B sounds like an English D, like dice, but when it's between vowels, it's a the, like them. Okay, so I don't know if there was some noise in the background. I'm sorry for that. But I can't record this video at any other time. Okay, going back to the D. The D is like the English D, but when it's between vowels, it's the. So when you say dos, Dinamarca, Dinamarca, okay? Dos, Dinamarca. But whenever the D is between vowels, it's going to sound like a the sound. Again, like in English, the. Okay? The. The tongue has to be between your teeth. Usually, what I recommend to pronounce this is to beat something on your side. Why? Because the tongue is between the teeth, but there's no pressure. The teeth are not pressuring the tongue. If they pressure the tongue, there's going to be a th sound. That's not the sound we're looking for. It's not th, it's the. So, for example, let's say the word finger. Dedo. Okay? A lot of American people say dedo. Again, they are reading in American English D. It's not dedo, it's dedo. Alright? Dedo. The first D is normal, but the second one is the. Why? Because it's between vowels. Okay? Let's say dado. Dado means dice. Same thing. The first D would be a regular D, the, and the second one would be a the. Dado. Okay? The same would happen with the name Adele in Spanish, which is Adela. It's not Adela, it's Adela. Adela. See how soft I'm pronouncing it? Adela. Adela. So yes, as I said before, the tongue is between the lips, but the tongue is between the teeth, but the teeth don't pressure the tongue. Adela. Adela. Okay? And the same, by the way, I said that in dedo. Oh, sorry. I said that in dedo, the first D is a D and the second is a the. The same would happen with the B and the word bebé, for example, baby. Okay, in bebé, the first B would be B and the second one would be B. Bebé, bebé, bebé. If this is difficult for you to pronounce, I recommend you to change the graphics. So, for example, you would have it like this, bebé, bebé. It's not bebé, okay? Don't say bebé, please. It's not a U sound, it's a W sound. Bebé. Okay? And here is dedo. Dedo. If you still can't pronounce it, again, I would recommend you to change the graphics. So, for example, you could say, or you could write, let me see, you could write dedo. It's not, don't say dedo. Okay, again, don't pressure the tongue. Dedo. All right? So that's the B and the D. Whenever they're between vowels, they're pronounced softer, either the or the. Okay? All right, let's now move to the G. No, sorry, to the C first. Let's now move to the C. The C in English, whenever it's followed by A, O, U, it's a K sound, right? You say cast, come, cat, okay? K, K, K. And then whenever the C is followed by I or E, it's a S sound. Like, for example, cement. So I don't know if it's written like this, if I'm honest. But you know, that thing that we use to like put bricks together. Cement or science, okay? Science. So in Spanish, the same thing happens. Whenever the C is followed by A or U, it's a K sound. Casa, house, comida, food, cuando, when. And whenever it's followed by IE, it's an S sound or a F sound, depending on the accent. For example, I say F, right? So, cesta, basket, cisterna. I don't know how to translate cisterna. Cisterna is that thing that you push whenever you pee. So that's a cisterna. Okay? Easy, right? Casa, comida, cuando, cesta, cisterna. What happens with this is that it's exactly like in English, so you don't have to overthink it. Okay, the less you think about it, the easier it is. Don't really, think much about it. And then we move to the G. Okay, the G again, just like in English, when the G is followed by A, O, U, it's pronounced like a g, g, g sound. From here, it's a velar sound, as we say in linguistics. So you have words like gas, the name gas, or the verb go, right? But whenever the G is followed by EI, it's a G sound, right? You say gesture, geography, gesture, geography, come on. I can't think of any other word with giraffe, okay, giant, okay, it's a J sound. So that same thing would happen in Spanish. Whenever the G is followed by A, O, U, it's a G sound. Gato, cat, goma, rubber, gusto, taste. G sound, okay? But whenever it's followed by EN, it's a H sound or a H sound, depending on the accent. So you would have gente, which is people. So again, depending on the accent, it's either going to be gente or gente. I personally would say gente. Well, maybe not in classes, but like, in my everyday, talking with my parents and everything, I would say gente. Okay? Gente, people, girar, to turn. gesto, gesture. Okay? If you want a little tip here, every sound that in English is a j sound, in Spanish is going to be a h sound. Either if it's with G or with J. Starting with my name, for example. In Spanish is Julia. Sorry, in English is Julia. In Spanish would be Julia. Gesture, gesto. Justice, justicia. John, Juan. I don't know. Geography, geografía. Giant, gigante. Okay? Again, everything that in English would be a j, j, j sound, in Spanish is a h sound. Okay? So, there we go. The G, whenever it's followed by a or u is ga, gato, goma, gusto. And whenever it's followed by e is h, gente, girar, gesto. Okay? But here's the thing. What happens if we want to pronounce a g sound? Because if I want to say the word guitarra, I cannot say it like this because I'm gonna be saying guitarra, and I don't want to say guitarra. I want to say guitarra. So what do we do in these cases? In these cases, we add a u here, but this u does not sound. It doesn't sound. The u is there just to tell us that the g is going to be pronounced as a g. Just because of it. Just because of that. Okay? So you would have guitarra, guerra. You would have also words like alguien. Okay? Alguien, someone, alguien. Okay? It's a g sound. Please do not read the u after the g. Okay? It's a silent u. It's there just to tell us that it's a g sound. Okay? Guerra, guitarra. And then we have some exceptional cases in which, words like pingüino, in which we want to pronounce the U. Because, if I say pingino, I don't want to say pingino, okay? And if I write it like this, I don't want to say pinguino either. So it's not pingino, it's not pinguino, it's pingüino. So what do I do to not make the U silent anymore? You just add these little 2 dots. So now it's not pinguino, it's pingüino, okay? I mean, cases like these are very rare, okay? But just in case you come across them, just for you to know that if you see like 2 dots, above the U, it just means that the U is not silent anymore, okay? There are not that many words with these little 2 dots, which technical name is diéresis, okay? There are not many words with diéresis, but just for you to know. Just for you to, to have that. So, we've already covered the difficult words, okay? There's one last thing I have to say about the G when it has a G sound, and it's that it's the same as with the D and the B. Whenever it's between vowels, it's going to sound softer. So, if I say el gato, I'm going to say el gato, right? But if I say la gata, so el gato would be the male cat, la gata would be the female cat. La gata, in this case, the G is between vowels. So it's not ga, it's ga. Ga, I'm closing the back of my mouth. But if I say ga, I'm not completely closing the back of my mouth. There's air going through. Ga. It's not ha, it's ga. It's like when you do gargles with water. When you do this? It's the exact same thing. It's very, very similar to the French R. So if you have a hard time pronouncing this, you just have to pronounce a soft, French R. Okay, it's very similar. La gata. It's not la gata. It's la gata. The same would be with the word water in Spanish. Water in Italian is aqua. In Portuguese is agua. In Spanish, it's not agua. It's agua. Agua. Again, it's very soft. The back of the mouth doesn't completely change, letting air going through. Agua. Okay? Agua. Agua, la gata, agobiar, 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 okay? So yes, now we've covered the difficult letters in Spanish, okay? Let's go with the easy ones. Well, we have the H, which is silent. This is very easy to know, but very difficult to remember when we speak in Spanish. So the word hermano, it's hermano, not hermano or anything like that. Hermano, okay? Hace, okay? Hoy, the H is silent, okay? Then we have the double L and the Y, which they both sound exactly the same. And it's a mix between the y and the j in English. So for example, say this word, please. Yes. Great. Now say this word, this name. Jazz. You have jazz. Yes. So a middle of them two would be our y sound. So you have yo, I, lluvia, rain, llave. It's not llave or llave. It's llave. It's something in between. Okay? Then we have the CH forming the ch sound. Chocar, to crash. Chaval, guy. Okay? And then we have the ñ, that it's a bit difficult for some people. Niño, news. But, most of my students pronounce it just fine. But, for some people it's a bit difficult. And then the R. The R, we have two R's in Spanish. Whenever the R is at the beginning of the word or it's written twice, it's pronounced like a hard R. Ramón, perro, parra, okay? Roca, rock, roca, okay? The rest of times is a soft R, like for example, pero. Pero means but. Pero. Para, which is for. Para, parra, different. Parra would be like the tree for the grapes, not exactly, but more or less. Okay? And that would be it. And then we have all these letters that are very easy to pronounce actually. The F is the F, fa, fi, fi, fo, fo. The J, as I said before, whatever sound that in English is J, in Spanish is going to be ha. So it would be ha, hi, hi, ho, ho. The K is the K, but it's not really used. It's only used for foreign words. Why? Because if we want to say kakoku, we're going to use the C. And if we want to say keki, we use the Q. The Q followed by a U that again doesn't sound. Okay, it's keki and the U doesn't sound. So don't say kue or anything. Okay, it's ke. The U doesn't sound after the Q. Then we have the L, la, li, lo, lu. The thing is that in English you say la, la, la. In Spanish we say la, la, la. See that? In English the sound comes from here, la, la, la. It's a guttural sound. In Spanish the sound comes from here. It's a more nasal sound. La, la, la. La, la, la. The tongue is completely flat. La, la, la. La, la, la. The tongue is not completely flat. The tongue kind of, rolls a little. La, la, la. I'm exaggerating the movement, but just for you to see that. La, la, la. La, la, la. La, la, la. La, la, la. Okay? So in English it would be la, la, la. And in Spanish it would be la, la, la. Okay? The M is the M. Mami, momo. Easy. N, nani, numu. Easy. The P is the P. It's just that, that in Spanish we don't exhale as much. It's not papa. It's papa. Okay? We've already gone through the Q. The S is the S. Sase, si, su. Nothing to say about it. The T is the T. It's just that, again, in Spanish we don't exhale that much. So it's just ta, ti, ti, tu, tu, ta, ta, ta. Okay? The W, it's not really used in Spanish. It's more for foreign words. And as I said before, the V is exactly like the B. The X is the X, just like in English. And then the Z, depending on the accent, is going to be sa or tha. So depending on the accent, you're going to have zapato, zapato, or zapato. Okay? So that would be it for the alphabet. Now we're going to do some practice. Okay? So let's say the word, let's say this sentence. Can you read this sentence, please? Read it. Exactly. Juan va al parque. Great. And this sentence? Great. Mi abuela se llama Noelia. Se llama. It's not se llama or se llama, it's se llama. Mi abuela se llama Noelia. Abuela. Mi abuela se llama Noelia. Okay? My grandma is named Noelia. Okay? All right. And one last sentence. Great. Me gusta el español. See that it's not me gusta. Me gusta el español. No, it's me gusta. Soft. Me gusta el español. So that was the alphabet. Okay. It's a very long video. It's a 30-minute video, but I hope that helps you. Nevertheless, that you know that you can ask me whatever question that you may have, and in class we'll go more into details about this. Okay. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it and hope to see you soon. Goodbye.